Hey guys, I'm back in the kitchen again. I think some of you know that I've been gonna make some onion broth. I've been saving onion skins in the freezer, and I've got, this thing is full. The top's starting to tear, so I've got water in my stock pot. And I decided to go ahead and do it today for several reasons, is because I need to get these out of the freezer and make room for the holidays coming up. Okay, I've got my stock pot. I put in those onions, and basically it's your peels, tops and bottoms. I went through the celery, I put that in. I cut up some garlic cloves, pretty good sized ones. Those are going in there. And I'm probably, I'll probably add water as I go along, but right now I got it up to here. And this is going to simmer for the rest of today. Okay, as far as seasoning or what have you, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt, maybe a tablespoon. And I'm not real crazy about bay leaves, so I'm just going to add a couple. And then, got my peppercorns. And maybe a teaspoon of peppercorns. How about a couple? Right now, it don't look too good because it's just onion skins and garlic and celery. Anyway, I'm gonna let her simmer away. Alrighty guys, it's the next morning. And first of all, I want to clarify what I do when I say I'm setting it outside. I take my stock pot, I put the lid on it, and I put something very heavy on the lid so that the critters don't get into it, but it'll stay cold. Anyway, this is what it looks like. The old farmer looked in here and he says, whatever you're cooking looks gross. Well, I would imagine it does, and you all can see how gross it looks. But look at that rich brown broth. Isn't that beautiful? I just tasted some of it. Very strong of onions, imagine that. But it's a little sweet, too sweet for me, and which makes sense, of course, because, you know, there's also sweet onions in there. Caramelizing onions brings out the sugars, blah, 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 blah. I added another tablespoon of salt. Didn't really cut the sweet, but I think it's going to be okay, because the main thing you get from this is onion, and it tastes like onion, which is what I wanted. All right, I'm going to get things around and we'll go from there. Okay guys, I've let it simmer and I've actually cooled it down just a bit. But what I'm going to do now is take all this delicious stuff out of here. Got a big bowl and a colander. And when I get the biggest of it out, I'll just pour it right into the colander. Alright guys, I've taken all the onion scraps, blah blah blah, out of the broth. Washed my pan. I've got the colander now. And I don't have any cheesecloth, but good old tea towels, best thing there is. I'm going to run the broth through here so that I can strain off, you know, any extra stuff that I might have missed. And I've got this great big stainless steel bowl full of broth as well. Ouch. Oh, jowza. That's hot. Okay, I'll let that finish draining through. we'll be back. Hey guys, I've got, I don't know if you can see it, I've got my stock pot here with the broth in it, the clear broth. Right next to it on the stove is my pressure canner. And yes, you've got to pressure can this. And I'm trying to set it up so you can kind of get an idea. Got my filler in here. And what I'm going to do now is fill my jars with hot broth. My jars, since I'm pressure canning, I didn't need to sterilize them. But I did wash them in hot soapy water. But isn't that beautiful? Look at that beautiful color. Okay, I do also want to point out, I've put hot broth in my jars, and I've already started warming up the water in my canner. And so you want to make sure that the temperature of your food, whatever in your jars, is pretty close to the same temperature as what's in your canner. You don't want your jars to crack and break. Yes, I've done that several times. So I'm putting the lids on. I'm going to tell you something, guys. I think you've all seen me use my Tattler lids before. Oh, shoot. Yep, got to wash that one again, of course. I wash my lids in hot soapy water, rinse them well, and then get them in here. I'm going to turn this heat on these Tattler lids, because Tattler lids, they said you don't have to boil it, but you want to get them the seal to kind of soften the seal so you get a better, make sure that it seals good. Okay, I'm going to get out one of my Tattler lids. Remember, it's got the rubber seal around it, and then these lids are plastic. I'm going to give you a lesson today on Tattler lids, what I've learned. There is a bit of a learning curve to them. Different from using the disposable. I told the old farmer today, the price of canning lids is just ridiculous. So I'm going to be buying more of these Tattler lids and use them more often. I can't remember now what I came up with per price, per each lid on these metal ones. But I'm going to order, what is it? I think I'm going to order 100 of each size, 100 of the regular size and the wide mouth, because the more you order, the cheaper they are, and I found them for about 67 cents a piece. Last time I bought wide mouth lids locally, they were between $3 and $4 a box. These you throw away. These you can use over and over and over. And as the website says, you can use them indefinitely. The only thing that you might have to change would be the rubber gasket if it dries out. But now remember, don't put oil on those like you do the seal on my canner. But on a regular lid, you put your ring on and you tighten it finger tight, and then it just goes into the canner. On a Tattler lid, put the lid on, bring it finger tight, and then back it off. I usually go about a quarter of a way, or maybe not quite that far, but it allows the siphoning action for the seal to be made. And the thing that is different with the Tattler and people that have failure rates, that's usually what it is when you take a Tattler jar out, since your lid isn't so tight, you immediately tighten it down tight, and that's what helps to make the seal. So anyway, I'm going to continue filling my canner, and we'll be back. Hey guys, I've got my canner will hold 7 quart jars or 9 pint jars. I've had some questions here recently on canners and what size to get. If I had my druthers, I would like one that stands taller. Tall enough that I could stack my pint jars. And they actually make them tall enough that you can stack quart jars, but that's too much for me. mostly because I wouldn't be able to lift it that high. And if you do that, you need to make sure that you have a rack between the two, and you just put a rack on there and stack them. Another thing that I don't think I've ever talked about is you need to read your particular canner how much water you need in the bottom. Mine says about 2 to 3 inches of water. The deal is you want to make sure you have plenty of water because you don't want the water to dry out when you're canning. A water bath canner, you completely immerse the lids, the jars in the water. They have to have at least 1 inch of water over the top of them. Pressure canner doesn't take that much water. So I've got these ready to go. You've seen me put the top on my canner before, so I'll get that done. These are onions. Well, they're onions, we all know that. But vegetables you process in a pressure canner for, depends on the size. I'll have to look for sure, but I do believe it's 30 minutes for pints. So I want to talk about when you're looking for canners is they're all about the same, but they're all a little bit different. Mine does not have, this particular one does not have a pressure gauge on it. Mine only has, this is for an emergency thing. If there's too much pressure, this will blow that out. Mine just has this vent hole where let's try it guys, where we vent the steady stream of steam for 10 minutes and then drop the weighted gauge on it. And again, you have to look for your altitude. My altitude is 10 pounds pressure. So, let's see, I think that was the only... Oh, another thing you need to do is you need to make sure that this little vent hole is clear. When you get ready to use it, just flip the lid over and look for the light, the little pinhole light. You want to make sure. Occasionally food will build up in there, and not a good thing. Okay. Hey guys, it's done. I'm going to take the lid off. 2 of them have already popped, meaning they've sealed. Oh, but you've seen me do this, but I just wanted to show you about the Tattler lids. Remember, it's hot, but all you do is when you bring it out, just tighten those lids down. That's the main thing you got to do. And then you're going to let them set for at least 12 hours. I let mine set overnight. I don't know what I have. But I've got about, maybe 3 or 4 more pints worth of broth that I'll be canning. And y'all know me, I don't do a half empty canner. So I'm going to fill up the canner with pinto beans. I'm down to just 3 pints, and we seem to go through a lot of beans. But the beans are going to take 75 minutes because I'll be doing pints, and the broth only needs 30 minutes. But it's okay to process longer than is required. You just can't cut back. For example, I can do if I put those all in there, and the onion broth only takes 30 minutes, that won't be enough for the beans. So I still need to do the full 75 minutes. So I'll work on getting this video uploaded, and while I've got the canner running. See y'all later.